Hi children, good morning to all. How are you all? Hope all are doing good. Yes. So now you entered into ninth class. So in ninth class for the biology, the first chapter we are going to discuss the fundamental unit of life. Let me ask you, in a previous class we discussed one chapter, that is structure and functional unit. What is that structure and functional unit? That is nothing but a cell. Why? Because the cell provide a structure to an organism and it provide the function to every cell organ. So we call the cell as a structural unit. Same here. Let us see what is a fundamental unit of life. Fundamental means the basic thing. Yes or no? Basic thing, minimum every organism should need for the life. So the minimum compulsory needed of component for the life or for the living organism is nothing but a cell. Cell is called as the fundamental unit of life. Whatever you have learned in your 8th class, the same concept lightly or slightly a depth about the cell we are going to discuss in this chapter. So hope you all are ready to listen well. Yes. Now let us see the fundamental unit of life. So cell is the fundamental unit of life. Every living organisms are made by the cell. Okay. So without any cell, no organism is formed. So the cell can be visible under the microscope. It is a very small material or a small component which can be visualized under the microscope. Yes or no? So some organelles, some organisms we can see. If you see the hen egg is a cell, it is a single cell, but we can see with our naked eye. Yes or no? We are the human beings, we made by multicellular organisms. Millions of our cells. The body is made by the millions of the cells. So these millions of the cells, each and every cell is very small, very minute one, which is only visible under the microscope. Okay, so we can see the big cells, we can see the small cells. Now let us see what is a cell. The cell is the fundamental structural and functional unit of living beings. So fundamental means it is a minimum basic need for every living organism. So it is a foundation for the living organism and it provides the structure to every living organism, and it is a functional unit. It facilitates the work or provide the work for every organism. So for all the living beings, it is a fundamental structural and functional unit of the living organisms. So all the living things are made of one or more cells. Yes or no? If organism is made by one cell, we call it as unicellular organism or single cell organism. If organism is made by more than one cell, we call it as a multicellular organism. So all the living organisms are made by one or more than one cell. So every cell has its own life. Every cell has a life. Even one cell becomes as a dead, that cell considered or that organ considered becomes as a weak. Okay, so every cell has a life. Old and weak cells in the body continually die, are replaced by the new cells. When the cells are dying, when the cell becomes older, when it becomes weak, when it couldn't able to work well, so they become weak cells. So these cells will die and these dead cells will be replaced by the new cells. All organisms including ourselves start life as a single cell called zygote. What is a zygote? Zygote in your 8th class we discussed, how the zygote is formed by the fusion of male and female gametes. So when the male and female gametes are fused, we can find the formation of zygote. This zygote is a single cell. So all the multicellular organisms are made by the single cell. Okay, starting stage, even multicellular organism at the starting stage, it is a single cell. Later on, by the division, new cells will form. Yes, so multicellular organisms will develop by the process of cell division. Cells are so small, they are microscopic in structure. They can visualize only under the microscope, that they cannot be seen with the naked eye. Many cells which are in a microscopic condition, they cannot be seen with the naked eye. We have to see it with the help of the microscope. So let us see the invention of the microscope. The first microscope was constructed by the Dutch scientist Antony van Leeuwenhoek in the year of 1632 to 1723. So all his microscopes consist of a single biconvex lens and were called simple microscope. So every microscope consists of single biconvex lens. You can see in the picture lenses, sample holder, focus knob. This is the microscope which was invented by the Antony van Leeuwenhoek. Some of these microscopes had considerable magnifying power up to 200 times. Whatever the material, very tiny material or a microscopic structure which we keep under the microscope, if we keep this material under this old microscope, it can be multiplies into the size of 200 times. So it gives a power of a big structure, whereas the small thing, even material which is very small, when we keep it under the microscope, it develops into 200 times bigger than this small one. So that is the main use of the microscope. So the microscope was invented by Antony van Leeuwenhoek. The first microscope you can see in this picture, and the scientist who invented the microscope, you can see his picture also, Antony van Leeuwenhoek. Now let us see the discovery of the cell. Robert Hooke, 1635 to 1703, an English scientist, developed a microscope by using two lenses for achieving greater magnification. Such microscopes were later known as compound microscopes. Using two lenses, the scientist who is called Robert Hooke, he used a microscope which is consisting of two lenses. So scientists developed a microscope. It's a greater magnification, such as a microscopes were later known as first it is a simple one, later it is known as a compound microscope. You can see the scientist Robert Hooke in the picture, and you can see the compound microscope, that is a compound microscope. Hooke examined a thin slice of cork. What is a cork? A big trees, they'll have a bark, no? When you remove the bark, you can find the white color material, that we call it as a cork. So first he examined the thin slice of a cork, the dead cells of a oak bark, oak tree. It is a high-test tree, nearly 900 meters long. Okay, he collected the bark of the oak tree. Under his microscope, he noted small geometric shape which he named cell. Very small, like a rooms, like a structure. In the picture you can see, there the honeycomb structure, the bark like a honeycomb. When you see the honeycomb, we'll find number of rooms or the cells, that is okay. He noted a small geometric shape which he named cell because they remind him of the small room monks live it any monastery. Monks means the fathers, preachers. Okay, so he imagined that shape as like a small room. That is a reason in a Latin word, the room in the Latin word is nothing but it is a cell. That is the reason he named it as a cell. It is a small room. Okay. So now let us see electronic microscope. An electronic microscope is a microscope that uses a beam of accelerated electrons, very small electrons, very small ones, okay, as a source of illumination. Illumination means light, brightening, okay, brightening. So very small ones can be seen as in a brightened condition, means even the dark ones will bright, not that meaning, okay. So it can give a good magnification or good visuality. Electron microscope can have a magnification of 5 lakhs times. Previously we saw that compound microscope gives the visuality of 200 times more, and electronic microscope is giving visuality of more than 5 lakhs times. That means very small tiny things also can be visualized under the electronic microscope. Ernest Rusk and Max Null built the first electron microscope in 1931. For this and subsequent work on the subject, Ernest Rusk was awarded the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1986. As they invented this electronic microscope, Rusk and Max Null, they got a Nobel Prize by the invention of electronic microscope. You can see the some variations between the light versus light microscope versus electronic microscope. So when the studies were moved on, the cell theory was proposed. After the invention of microscope, lot of studies were takes place over the cell. What is a cell? What is the importance of the cell? They started to study. So the cell theory was studied by Matthias Schleiden, Theodor Schwann and Rudolf van Virchow. These are the three scientists. They had a main studies on the cell theory. So when they studied about the cell theory, they proposed the three statements. The cell theory consists of three statements. So the three basic components of the cell theory are: all organisms are composed of one or more cells. It was proposed by Schleiden and Schwann in 1838 to 39. Okay, what is the first postulation? All organisms are composed of one or more cells. So every organism, without the cell no organism is formed. Next, second postulation is the cell is the basic unit of life in all living things. So it is a minimum or a basic thing. The cell is the basic unit of life in all living things. This postulation was also given by the Schleiden and Schwann in 1838 to 39th year. And the last one is given by the Rudolf van Virchow. The third postulation is all cells are produced by the division of the pre-existing cells. So already present. So by the fusion of male and female gametes, formation of zygote is formed. This zygote undergo number of cell divisions and new cells will be formed when the cell is divided. For example, when you break one cell into two equal halves, it will one cell be divided into two equal halves, it is a 2. If these two are broken into another 2, we can find formation of 4 cells. That means cells will be multiplied by the cell division. So how the new cells are formed? The new cells are formed from the pre-existing cells. Now let us see unicellular organisms and multicellular organisms. Some living things such as bacteria made up of only a one cell. Bacteria, virus, protozoans, these all are the organisms are made by a single cell. Okay, so they are called as a unicellular organisms or single cell organisms. And multicellular organisms, other living things such as these or trees or butterflies have many cells. So they are multicellular organisms. So many organisms are made by the more than one cell. So they are called as a multicellular organisms. Mycoplasma, Galloseptisium, a parasitic bacteria. Mycoplasma, it is a bacteria which lives in the primate's bladder. Waste, disposable organs, genitals and respiratory tracts. So they can find in the respiratory tracts. Is thought to be the smallest known as organism capable of independent growth and reproduction. So it is a small microorganism which grows as an individual, as an independent organism. The largest cell found in nature is an ostrich egg. So the smallest cell is a Mycoplasma bacterium and the largest cell is a ostrich egg. Okay, nerve cells are the longest cell. Where we can find the nerve cell, brain and the spinal cord. So nerve cells are the longest cell. The longest of nerve cells in any species are be found in the colossal squid. So with some nerve cells estimated to be over 10 times in a length. So it is a 10 times in a length. So you have given a few points here. The largest cell in the human body is the ovum or egg cell, roughly 1 millimeter in diameter and just visible to the naked eye. It is visible to the naked eye. The smallest cell in the human body is the sperm. Okay, so it is a 60 micrometers, 0.002 in inches in length and not visible to the naked eye. Can be over a meter length. So why are cells very small? Let us see why the cells are very small. Small cell size is a practical necessity arising from the decreasing in the surface area to volume ratio of any object as it increases in a size. As an object increases in a volume, its surface area also increases, but not as a quickly. So if it is a very small in a size, it is in a less in a surface area. If the volume is increased, the surface area also will be increased. This phenomenon has biological significance for two reasons. It is a biological significance which is very most important for the living beings. The volume of a cell determines the amount of metabolic activity it carries out per unit of a time. So the volume defines the metabolic activities. What are metabolic activities? Energy releasing processes. So the surface area of a cell determines the amount of substances that can enter it from the outside environment and amount of waste products that can exit to the environment. So easy to enter the materials. The volume of the cell defines that. If it is very small, it can take it very easy, and if it is small also, the materials or the substances can exit very easily. So that is the reason why the size of the cells are in a different sizes, big or a small, length of the size. Okay, length of the cells. Now cell shape and the functions. You can see here human red blood cells. They are circular and biconcave to pass through the narrow capillaries and transport the oxygen. They are biconcave, round shaped structure. They used to roll very easily. So they can move easily in a narrow blood vessels. Our blood vessels are very narrow. So as they are in a biconcave in a structure, they could move easily in the blood vessels and they carry the oxygen. The red blood cells' main function is they carry the oxygen. White blood corpuscles. Corpuscles are the cells. The same word. Corpuscles are cells. White blood cells are the white blood corpuscles. These are amoeboid with the pseudopodia. Where you find the pseudopodia? The foot-like structures in the amoeba. No? Pseudo means false. Podia means foot. False foot. So like that, these white blood cells, they are the shapeless cells. As the white blood cells doesn't have a particular shape, they are called as amoeboic cells. So they have the pseudopodia like a structure, so that they can capture, they can change the shape very easily to engulf the foreign microorganisms that enter into the body. So the main function of white blood cells is they cause the defense system in our body, they prevent the entry of pathogens in our body, and they prevent the disease causing germs into the body. So we can say that immunity power, disease resistant power causes by the white blood cells. So easily they can catch, they can engulf, and they prevent us from the diseases. Next cell is a nerve cell. It is a long and elongated. It's a very long structure. So what is the importance of nerve cell? To conduct impulses from the distant parts of the body to the brain and vice versa. From the brain, from all the parts, they will collect the information. So that why they are the long and elongated structures. Next one is a muscles. You can see here striated muscle fiber. No, that is a muscle structure. It is a long spindle shape and it is a contractile. So to pull or the squeeze, to move, easily move, we have a muscles. No, they attach us to the bones and they help us to move easily. Next one is guard cells. Guard cells can be found in the stomata. The stomata is protected by the guard cells. Okay, so these are the bean shaped in a structure. They help to open and closing of the stomatal pores. So what is the importance of stomata? The stomata allows gaseous exchange. That means during the process of respiration, they take in oxygen, they leave out of the carbon dioxide. During the process of photosynthesis, they take inside the carbon dioxide and leave the oxygen. So that is, we call it as a gaseous exchange. Not only for that, and also for the process of transpiration. What is the transpiration? Transpiration is nothing but releasing of excessive amount of water out of the plant body. We call it as a transpiration. For all these purposes, the stomata plays a major role for the process of a plant body, for the process of gaseous exchange as well as the process of transpiration. If you take a cell, we can structurize the cell. Easy to remember. You can see cell boundaries. That means cell wall and cell membranes are the boundaries of the cell. Protoplasm is, the protoplasm consists of cytoplasm and nucleus. Now, the cytoplasm consists of cell organelles, vacuoles and cytoplasmic inclusions. Coming to the cell organelles, we have a membrane-bound cell organelles, membraneless cell. What are the membrane-bound cell organelles? Double membrane-bound cell organelles are mitochondria and plastid. Single membrane-bound cell organelles are endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus and lysosomes. Membraneless cell organelles, ribosomes and centrosomes. Okay, these are the, just to remember the structure of a cell easily, the structures, the division is given. Now let us see. Membrane bound means all the cell organelles are present inside the cell. The outermost is a membrane bond. If you see the picture, you can get idea. The point finger is showing, no, that is a boundary. So if the cell has a boundary, that we call it as a membrane bound cells. So first, the membrane bound is a cell wall. So cell wall is a tough, rigid layer. Tough means very hard. Rigid means which have a able to withhold the pressure. Okay, uphold the pressure. Okay, cell wall is a tough, rigid layer that surrounds some types of cells. It is located outside the cell membrane, whose main function is to provide rigidity, strength, protection against the mechanical stress and the infections. So externally some mechanical infections or the stress will gets into the plant body. So it prevents the mechanical stress and infections. Okay, that is the main function of a cell wall. Cell wall is a characteristic feature to the cell of a plants. Bacteria, fungi, many algae and some archaea, these all are having a cell wall, and whereas protozoans and animal cell do not have a cell wall. The composition of the cell wall differs from one species to another. So even the composition of cell wall is not same in all the cell organelles. It is differs. So the archaea cell wall, archaea is a type of a bacteria. Cell wall is made up of glycoproteins and polysaccharides. In fungus, the cell walls are made up of glucosamine and chitin. In algae, it is composed of glyceroproteins and polysaccharides. These are some of the components. The different cell wall is made by, in different organisms, different cell walls are composed with the different components. The plant cell was mainly composed of cellulose, hemicellulose, glycoproteins, pectins and lignin. So coming to the plant, the cell wall in the plant is made by cellulose, hemicellulose, glycoproteins, pectins and the lignin, and freely permeable and non-living in nature. It is in non-living in nature, but it is a freely permeable, means it allows the materials into the body. So do you know the cell wall is like a fort? You can see the picture, no? It is like a fort. It protects the organelles inside the cell and provides the strength and support to the cell. Now, coming to the plant cell wall. Plant cell wall consists of 3 layers: primary cell wall, secondary cell wall and middle lamella. The middle lamella, it is the first layer formed during the cell division. It forms during the cell division. This layer is rich in pectin. It is the outermost layer joined together adjacents. Adjacents means connects 2 areas. Okay. Plant cells and holds them together. It helps to connect 2 cells. Okay. Plant cells. Many cells, one plant contain many cells. So each and every cell is connected by the adjacent cells. Okay. Joins together by the adjacents. Okay. Next, the primary cell wall. It is formed after the middle lamellae. It is composed of pectin compounds, hemicellulose and glycoproteins. The layer consists of a framework of a cellulose microfibers in a gel-like a matrix. It is thin, flexible and extensible layer. It is an extensible layer, means it is an elastic in nature. And the secondary cell wall, it is a thick layer formed inside the primary cell wall. It extremely rigid and provides strength. It composed of cellulose, hemicellulose and lignin. These are the materials to form the cell wall. Let us see the functions of the cell wall. You can see here plasmadesmata between 2 cells. Yes. Functions. Nearly 10 functions are given here. Once let us see. Gives the cell as a definite shape and a structure. It provides a definite shape and structure to the cell. It provides structural support, protection against infections and mechanical stress, separates interior of the cell from the outer environment. It enables the transport of substances and information from the cell to another cell inside the exterior and vice versa. Also helps in osmotic regulation, osmotic pressure, prevents the water loss. It saves the water. It prevents the water loss, The physiological and biochemical activity of a cell wall helps in the cell to cell communication. It prevents the cell from rupturing due to the turgor pressure. It prevents the cell from the rupturing of the turgor pressure, aids in diffusion of gases in and out of the cell. That means we can say that it has a gaseous exchange during the process of respiration or the process of transpiration. Previously I said about the transpiration. So, cell membrane. It is the boundary which separates the living cell from their non-living surroundings. In animal cell, the plasma is present in the outermost layer of the cell, and in plant cell it is present just beneath the cell wall. Why? In animal cell, the cell wall is not present. That is the reason it is the outermost layer for the animal cell and second layer for the plant cell. Very thin, flexible. It is very thin and it is very flexible. Living membrane. It is a cell wall is a non-living. It is a living membrane. Possesses fine pores composed of two layers of phospholipids and embedded with the proteins. So it is a thin semi-permeable membrane layer which allows only selected molecules to diffuse across the membrane. Selected molecules means it is a selectively semi-permeable. It allows only wanted substances into the into the cell body. Okay, that is why it is a selectively semi-permeable membrane. We can see some differences between the cell wall and the cell membrane. So it is a rigid. The cell wall is a rigid and thick structure and visible in the light microscope. Cell membrane, it is a delicate and thin structure and visible in only electronic microscope. The cell wall is surrounded outermost layer in a plant cell and occurs as a protective covering surrounding the plasma membrane. Whereas the cell membrane, it is the outermost layer in animal cell and occurs as a semi-permeable membrane covering surrounding the protoplasm. So, the cell wall is made up of cellulose in a plant cell, peptoglycerins, bacteria, and cell wall is made up of chitin in a fungus. The plasma membrane is made up of lipids, proteins, and small amount of carbohydrates. So, the cell wall is a completely permeable to ordinary macromolecules. And the cell membrane is selectively permeable, allowing only certain molecules to pass through it. So, the cell wall occurs in a plant cell, bacterium, fungus. In the cell membrane occurs only in all cells of the animals. It is metabolic activity and non-living. Metabolically, it is an inactive. No metabolic activities will take place in the cell wall. And it is a metabolically active and it is a living cell is a cell membrane. The cell wall determines the cell shape and offers the protection. So, the cell membrane protects the protoplasm and maintains the constant internal environment to the protoplasm. Constant environment means there should be a constant environment to maintain metabolic activities in a better manner. Okay, this is about the first boundary of the cell, that is a cell wall and a cell membrane. Coming to the next one is a protoplasm. Cytoplasm and nucleus together we call it as a protoplasm. You can see the pointing, so by the point finger they are the parts, cytoplasm and the nucleus. Now let us see protoplasm. The living component of a cell, protoplasm. It is a living component in the cell. Protoplasm is nothing but combination of cytoplasm and a nucleus. So, surrounded by the plasma membrane, protected by the plasma membrane. The plant cells have an outer boundary called the cell wall. Plant cell is having outer boundary, that is a cell wall. Coming to the cytoplasm. The components which are present in the cytoplasm is jelly-like substance enclosed by the cell membrane. It contains organelles to carry out specific jobs, specific works, provides a medium for the chemical reactions to the which chemical reactions takes place inside the cell. Coming to the nucleus components, the cell nucleus acts like the brain of the cell because it controls all the cell organelles, and it contains genetic material. It also consists of DNA or RNA, that we call it as a genetical material, which is responsible to the transport of the hereditary substances that are nothing but the genes. Now let us see about the nucleus. The main focus you can see, that is a nucleus. Structure of nucleus. First one is nuclear envelope. It is a double layer membrane that encloses the content of the nucleus during the most of the cell life cycle. Next one is a nuclear pores. The nuclear envelope is perforated with a holes called nuclear pore. The small holes are called as a nuclear pores. These pores regulate the passage of molecules between the nucleus and the cytoplasm, performing some to pass through the membrane but not others. Nucleoplasm, also called as nuclear sap or karyoplasm. It is a fluid usually found in the nucleus of a eukaryotic cells. Complex mixture of molecules. Its primary function is to act as a suspension medium for the organelles of the nucleus. That is a nucleoplasm. Next, nucleolus. The nucleolus is a membraneless organelles within the nucleus that manufactures ribosomes. So the cells proteins producing the structures. Cell need proteins, they are produced by the ribosomes. Next one is chromatin. Fibers of DNA and protein stores the information for the synthesizing of the proteins. When cell prepares to divide, chromatin fiber coil up as separating the structures. So the coiled structures in the nucleus, we call it as a nucleolus. Now you can see the structure of a nucleolus. First you can observe the parts of the nucleolus, that is endoplasmic reticulum surrounded the nucleus, chromatin, nucleoplasm, nucleopore and nuclear envelope. So what are the functions of this nucleus? It regulates and produces or coordinate various life processes in the cell. All the life processes in the cell will be controlled or coordinated by the nucleus. It plays an important part in a cell division. While the cell is dividing, the nucleus will divide and the chromosomes also will be divided. It contains the factors. The factors are nothing but genes. When the word gene is not coined, previous to that, the scientists used to call the genes as the factors, okay, which determined by the heredity. Determines the heredity. That means it defines the parental characters, which helps to transfer the parental traits to the offspring. The nucleus is called as the brain of the cell because it holds the information needed to conduct most of the cell function. Every information is held up by the nucleus. That is the reason we call the nucleus as a brain of the cell. Now let us see chromosome versus chromatin. You can see the pictures clearly, children. I try to observe the picture. Chromosome, it is a tightly packed DNA found only during the cell division. The chromosomes will find only during the cell division. DNA is not being used for the macromolecule synthesizing. This is about the chromosome. Chromatin is a unwound DNA found throughout the interphase. Interphase is a one phase of the cell division. DNA is being used for the macromolecule synthesis. So a small box. A gene is the basic physical and functional unit of a heredity. It is a functional unit of the heredity. What is the functional unit of heredity? Gene. Genes, which are made up of DNA, acts as a instructions to make molecules called as proteins. So instructions are nothing but they are the proteins to form the proteins. Okay. Now, human beings are consisting of 46 chromosomes. Different animals, they are having different number of chromosomes. Okay. So let us see a few examples. Human beings, they are having 46, monkey 42 chromosomes, dog 78, cat 38, mouse 40 chromosomes, frog 26 chromosomes, fruit fly consists of 8 chromosomes, flatworm consists of 16 chromosomes. Coming to the plants, corn is having 20 chromosomes, potato is having 48 chromosomes, green algae is consisting of 20 chromosomes, yeast contains 32 chromosomes, and fungi, bread molds, they consist of 4 chromosomes. So by this we can understand each and every organism, they are having a different number, different cells, they are consisting of different types of chromosomes. Basing on the nucleus, some cells, they are consisting of a nucleus, well-defined nucleus. Well-defined nucleus means the nucleus which is enveloped by the nuclear membrane or nuclear envelope. If the nucleolus is not protected by the nuclear membrane, they are called as prokaryotes. So here you have given eukaryotic cell and a prokaryotic cell. In prokaryotic cell is the DNA is naked and DNA is circular, usually no interns. Coming to the eukaryotics, DNA bounded to protein, DNA is linear, usually has a interns. Coming to the organelles, in prokaryotes, no nucleus, no membrane bond, they consist of 70S ribosomes. 70S ribosomes are the one type of ribosomes. In eukaryotics, the organelles has a nucleus, membrane bond, 80S ribosomes are present. Coming to the reproduction, the prokaryotes, they undergo for binary fission, single chromosome. In 8th class we studied binary fission in amoeba. Single cell divide into 2 cells, break down and they form into 2 cells. And the reproduction in eukaryotic, they undergo for a mitotic division and meiosis division. The cell, when it divides, it doubles, that is a mitotic division. Chromosomes paired, they are in a diploid condition. The range size is in a prokaryotes, nearly they are smaller, nearly -1 to -5 millimicrons. Coming to the eukaryotes, large, they are 10 to 100 millimicrons. So this is the difference between the prokaryotes and the eukaryotes. So the next one is a cell organelles. First cell organelle is a mitochondria. It is a smooth and is composed of equal amounts of phospholipids and the proteins. It has a large number of special proteins known as the porins. The porins are integral membrane proteins and they allow the movement of molecules that are of 5000 daltons or less in a weight to pass through it. The outer membrane is freely permeable to nutrient molecules, ions, energy molecules like the ATP and the ADP. So more amount of energy. Generally we can say that mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell due to the formation of cellular respiration, not formation, due to the process of cellular respiration. So the inner membrane of mitochondria is more complex in structure. It is folded into a number of folds many times and it is known as the cristae. This folding help to increase the surface area inside the organelles. So the cristae and the proteins of the inner membrane aids in the production of ATP molecule. This folds helps to increase the surface area and they used to produce the ATP molecule. ATP means adenosine triphosphate. It is an energy currency. The energy is stored in ATP molecule in the form of phosphate bonds. Unlike the outer membrane, the inner membrane is strictly permeable. It is permeable. It is only to it is permeable only for the allowing oxygen and ATP. Also helps in the regulating transfer of metabolites, that is energy releasing process. What are the materials which are needed for the energy? They all are called as metabolites across the membrane. You can see the structure of a DNA. Intermembrane space. It is the space. Once you can go through the picture, you can see all the parts. Up to now, whatever the parts we discussed, you can see there. Inner membrane space. It is the space between the outer and inner membrane of the mitochondria. It has the same composition as that of a cell's cytoplasm. This is a difference in the protein content in the intermembrane space. Next is a matrix. The matrix of the mitochondria is complex. Complex mixture of the proteins and enzymes. These enzymes are nothing but they are the chemical substances. They are important for the synthesizing of ATP molecule, mitochondrial ribosomes, tRNA transfer, ribonucleic acid and mitochondria and DNA. These all the matrix is consisting of all these components. So it participates in the cellular respiration and produce the energy. This energy is stored in the form of ATP molecules. These ATP molecules are rich in content of matrix, DNA matrix. Okay. So as this store the energy in the DNA is called as a powerhouse of the cell. Next cell organelle is plastids. Plastids are of three types: chromoplast, chloroplast and leucoplast. So if you see the chloroplast is consisting of a green pigment. It is in a green in color. We can find in all the leaves. These leaves facilitate the process of photosynthesis because the chloroplast trap the solar energy, convert the solar energy into chemical energy, and they facilitate the main process of photosynthesis. And coming to the chromoplast, in a plants we used to find different flowers, different flowers or fruits. They are in different colors: red color, yellow color, orange color, pink color, violet color. We used to find different colors, the flowers and the fruits. The flowers are in different colors. They attract the insects. So when the insects fell on the flowers, they attaches the pollen grains. So these pollen grains will transfer from one flower to another. That means they attract the insects for the process of pollination. Pollination will take place. And leucoplast in the fruit, inside the fruit, colorless plastids. Inside the fruit we can find a white color pulp of the fruit. We can say it as a pulp of the fruit which is in a white color. It is a colorless, we can say white color or a colorless. So they are called leucoplast. So they store the food substances. So this leucoplast again three types: amyloplast, eleuroplast and eleuroplast and eleuroplast. So amyloplast they store the carbohydrates or the starch. Eleuroplast they store the fats like sunflower oil, coconut oil, these all. Okay. Next eleuroplast they store the proteins like green gram, black gram, Bengal gram, all this. So these are the functions of different types of plastids. Next cell organelle is endoplasmic reticulum. The endoplasmic reticulum, shortly we call it as a ER, is a network of a interconnecting membrane. You can see it is connecting into the nucleus, okay, called that a lumen. It's a separation of a part of the cell with a distinct protein and ion composition. At a certain size, endoplasmic reticulum is continuous with the outer nuclear envelope membrane. Depending upon the presence or absence of a ribosomes on the surface of are two types of endoplasmic reticulum, that are rough endoplasmic reticulum, which is consisting of ribosomes on its surface. In the picture you can find it clearly. Next is a smooth endoplasmic reticulum. The surface of endoplasmic reticulum is absence of a ribosomes, that we call it as a smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So smooth endoplasmic reticulum functions are synthesize the lipids, they metabolize and detoxify the toxic substances. And rough endoplasmic reticulum, they synthesize the proteins, they prepare the proteins, these proteins which are helpful for the developing the cell membrane. The process of developing a cell membrane by the proteins which are made by the rough endoplasmic reticulum, we call it as a membrane biogenesis. So this is a main function of the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Next one is a Golgi apparatus. So Golgi apparatus was discovered in the year of 1898 by an Italian biologist, Camillo Golgi. In plant cell, the Golgi apparatus is called as dictyosomes. It is located in the cytoplasm next to the endoplasmic reticulum and near the cell nucleus. If you see the structure, the Golgi apparatus organelle consists of three membrane components that are by clearly identified through the electron microscope. They are the lamellae or a cisternae or a vesicles and the vacuoles. So the flat sacs of the cristae are stacked and is bent, and they are the semicircular in a shape. So the Golgi complex is a polar in nature. One end of the stack is known as the cis phase. It is the receiving department, while the other is ends in the trans phase. That means the cis phase take the substances into the Golgi apparatus. Mainly the Golgi apparatus package and transport the substances. And the trans phase helps to transport the substances from the Golgi apparatus to all other parts. Vesicles are the minute spherical structures of the Golgi apparatus that originate from the cisternae by budding or a pinching of process. They are found singly or in a clusters. If you see the picture, you can clear. Vacuoles are the spherical, comparatively larger secretory or granules adjacent to the cisternae. They also lie at a maturing phase and they contain the electron dense materials. You can see the structure of the Golgi apparatus. You can see the functions. The principal function of Golgi apparatus organelle is secretion that occurs in the form of secretory granules. It also has a role in neurosecretion, secreting the neurosecretory materials. The Golgi apparatus organelles acts as a packing organelles and transporting various materials like proteins, polysaccharides out of the cell. They transport it. The Golgi apparatus takes part in the formation of plasma membrane, cell wall, lysosomes, primary lysosomes and acrosome, head of the sperm. You can see when we studied in 8th class structure of a sperm, the head contains an acrosome. It is also prepared by the Golgi apparatus. It also prepares the vacuoles. Next one is lysosomes. The cytoplasm of both plant and animal cells contain many tiny regular shaped membrane-bound vesicles known as lysosomes. They contain various at least 50 types of hydrolytic enzymes. Enzymes are nothing but they are the chemical substances. So lysosomes of injured or dead cells ruptures together and release the enzymes which lyse the useless cells. Lyse means kill. They kill the useless substances and they clean up. So the lysosomes release the hydrolytic enzymes and they kill unwanted substances and they clean up the cell. Okay, that is these are the membranous sacs budded off from the Golgi apparatus. So lysosomes help in the digestion of lysosomes can digest the entire cell. This takes place during the formation of human appendages and during the natural death of the cell. Hence it is termed as a suicidal bag of this. Any organelle cell in the body is dead, wounded out or becomes as a damage or workless or inefficient to work well. So it used to kill. It releases the hydrolytic enzymes and it kills the waste substances. So it helps to clean up the cell. That is the reason we call it as a hydrolytic enzyme. Thus, as it releasing hydrolytic enzymes and cleaning the cell or killing all unwanted cell organelles in the cell, it is called as the suicidal bag of the cell. So these lysosomes are also produced by the Golgi apparatus. The last one is a vacuole cell organelle. The term vacuole is literally means empty space. It is a empty space which gives the meaning. Vacuoles are formed by the fusion of small multiple membrane vesicles. They have no basic shape or a size and their structure varies according to the needs of the cell. Plant and fungal cells usually consist of large vacuoles, plants and the fungus, although their number is less. On the contrary, animals and the bacteria cells might contain large number of small vacuoles. Plant cell and fungus contain a large vacuoles, but they are very less in number. In animal cell, very small vacuoles we can find more in number. Tonoplast, a term commonly associated with the vacuole, refers to the very active and dynamic membrane that surrounds the plant cell vacuole. The plant cell vacuole is surrounded by the tonoplast. So what are the functions of the vacuoles? A vacuole has a membrane bound cavity inside a cell. So the vacuole stores the materials like water, food, nutrients and the waste products. So there is a membrane that surrounds a bound of the fluid and vacuole holds on the things that cell might need like a storage bubble. So the vacuole can hold the cell waste products and break them down into the small pieces that can hurt the cell. So most of the plant cells volume depends on the how full of the vacuoles. So you can see here the vacuole in a plant cell we can find. The vacuole is placed at the center of the plant cell, whereas it is periphery to the periphery to the animal cell. That means nucleus is at the center of the animal cell. The nucleus is periphery to the plant cell. What is the reason? Generally, the plant is consisting of large vacuoles. They are placed at the center to occupy the more space to store more amount of the water. Whereas in animal cells, vacuoles are much functionless, so they are very small. So nucleus is having much function, acts as a brain of the cell. So it sits at the center of the animal cell. That is the reason why the nucleus in a plant cell lies at the periphery. Okay. The cell wall plays a major role in transport the nutrients by the process of osmosis and diffusion. So osmosis is nothing but to transport the nutrients from the low concentration to high concentration. Diffusion is nothing but it transports the nutrients from the high concentration to low concentration. So in osmosis, the semi-permeable membrane acts as a membrane and it helps to transport the nutrients. Okay. Now let us see how the nutrients are transporting from the cell to cell. How the nutrients in the cell body, in the organism, from cell to cell nutrients will transport. Let us see a little demonstration about the process of osmosis. We'll have a small video about the osmosis. Okay. Hypotonic solution, the solution which is consisting of less concentrated solution. In the less concentrated solution, which type of osmosis will take place? In hypertonic solution means it is a solution which is consisting of more concentrated. You can see here the salt is adding in the water, that we call it as hypertonic solution. That means hypotonic solution is consisting of high concentration. So how can we examine the effects of a hypertonic solution in the cell? We can have a small experiment by using the eggs. Okay, egg is a single cell, yes or no? We can place the egg and we can see. Now here the salt water causes a dehydration. What is a dehydration? Loss of water in the body cells, we call it as a dehydration. So this glass is filled with the salt water. Now it is given to the dog. When it drinks this salt water, it causes a dehydration. Do you know? Children, when we drink concentrated water, we feel that the drinks are the source of revealing the thirst. No, if you drink more amount of water, instead of water, if you drink the drinks, what happen? The cells absorb this, and what happen? The release amount of water, they release out, exosmosis causes in the body, and they cause dehydration to the body. Okay, here we take an egg. You can see here cell membrane. So we can see the cloth like a structure in the egg, that is a cell membrane, which acts as a selectively semi-permeable membrane, which means it allows only wanted substances into the cell. That is so egg is a single cell. Now let us see the experiment. Semi-permeable membrane, inner membrane. So we took a beaker and we are keeping 2 eggs into the water. So in that we pour some water. The eggs consist of calcium carbonate, acetic acid, and they are mixed with the water. So carbon dioxide plus water, calcium, acetate, they will be released. If you keep these eggs for 3 days, what could happen? See, you can see the dissolving of calcium carbonate. You can find the bubbles. Formation of a bubbles you can find here. The eggs are removed after 3 days. Now placing egg in a hypertonic solution and a hypertonic solution. Before that we are weighing in the weighing machine. Egg A is having a 94 grams. Egg B is having a 1 or 2 grams. Egg A is keeping in hypotonic solution. Egg B is keeping in a hypertonic. See, you can see that sugar solution, highly concentrated. So we keep the both eggs for 8 hours. One egg is in a low concentration. Hyper means high concentration. So we have to keep these eggs for 8 hours. Now the eggs were removed. We waited. So original mass 94 grams. The hypotonic solution egg. So water will enter the cell and the weight is increased. The 55 grams. The change is 57. The mass is changed. Now hypertonic solution egg. Water will leave from the egg. It comes out. So we can see loss of weight. Okay. So change of the mass, if you see the insignificance into a different solutions. Again it is exchanged into a different solution. Now A is hypertonic solution, B is a hypotonic solution. Eggs. Again we kept the eggs into the 8 hours. Okay. It takes time, 8 hours. After 8 hours, you can see here the eggs are taken out and again they weighted 54 to 55 grams. So the change is 57 and the egg B is a 105, original 58. It came into a 177%. So the weight came. Hypotonic solution. So water enters into in a hypotonic solution. We can find the endosmosis process. In hypotonic solution, we find the exosmosis, releasing of a exosmosis. So this is a process how the osmosis will take place. So we observe how the osmosis takes place. In case of hypotonic solution, we find that process of endosmosis. In case of hypertonic solution, we find the process of exosmosis. So in this manner, the cells used to transport the nutrients and substances from one cell to another by the process of osmosis. Now let us see the differences between plant cell and animal cell. We can see the common features and differences also. No? Coming to the animal cell, there is a no cell wall. In plant cell, cell wall is present. And in plant cell, large vacuoles are present. In animal cell, small vacuoles. And in plant cell, chloroplast is present. In animal cell, no chloroplast. And in a plant cell, flagella only is a gamete. And coming to the animal cell, no flagella. But there is a common characteristic features are there. What are they? Mitochondria is present in both plant cell and animal cell. Golgi apparatus is present in both plant cell and animal cell. Rough and smooth endoplasmic reticulum both present. Nucleus, cytoplasm and ribosomes are the common features which are present in both plant cell and animal cell. Children, do you ever heard about stem cells? What are the stem cells? When the baby born, the plasma from the umbilical cord, they collect the some amount of cells. The cells they will store for the future of that baby. Okay. In case of during the lifespan, at any time or at any cost of a time, if the cells were become weak, if the baby becomes weak, if they inject these stem cells to the baby, the cells will rejuvenate, they reproduce again into the new form and they produce the energy. So this is what about the cell, that is a fundamental unit of life. Hope you understood well. See you soon in the next session.